And I like how you're putting all the credit on me. I can't tell if it's credit or blame.
Hello and welcome to Twincast. My name's Clark. I'm here with my brother Cam. How are you tonight, Cam?
Oh man, wonderful. I can't believe how much fun we've had over the past couple of weeks. Clark.
Yeah, crazy. So, if you are a follower of the podcast, you notice that we haven't put anything out. Usually about the second week of the month, we have a video coming out. It just so happened that was the week that we went to a retro convention. So we haven't had time to do a specific game and play through it and talk about it because we've been preparing for that. What we decided to do is we are going to sit down and have a chat about what all of that entails and what our experiences were with that. But just before we get into that, just as a general reminder, this is sort of a Game of the Month podcast. Next month, we'll be back with the regular slated activities of, playing through a game and talking about it. Let's jump into this retro convention. Cam, let me just ask you, because you're the one that kind of kicked all of this off. What were we doing a couple weekends ago?
Well, I mean, we obviously went to the Utah Retro Game Expo. And I like how you're putting all the credit on me. I can't tell if it's credit or blame. Because it was a pretty big task for us because we had never really done anything like this before. We're fairly new at this, and it really felt like we were stretching our bounds to go and promote our podcast there at a big convention. So yeah, we packed up a bunch of our consoles, your CRT, my computer monitor, my old CRT computer monitor, and we pretty much brought our whole production studio to our booth, and along with all our retro consoles, and we just set it up and prayed that we would get people coming over and interacting with us. So that's what we were doing. We wanted people to come over, interact. We could find games that we had, they could play them, and they could tell us about them. And I'll just turn it over to you to maybe talk to them, tell them a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, I mean, spoilers, it was a ton of fun. We had so many people coming by and so many great experiences. And I do want to get into some of those individual experiences. Maybe before we do that, though, I want to ask you, Cam, just maybe the history leading up to this. How many times have you been to this convention before?
I think we had been, maybe 3 years before this one, so this would have been our 4th year overall. So, I would say that's about right. About 4 years ago, it was just one day, and we went and we had a lot of fun. We're like, we were pretty new into collecting and getting back into retro video games at that point. We were just buying all these Nintendo games. We're like, hey, cool, look at this Nintendo games. We bought a bunch of Nintendo games, and then I felt like we kind of were like, okay, well, we don't really need many more of those. And so later years, we kind of got more and more niche on what we were looking for every time we went. And then I remember last year, leading up to one last year, we were talking about, well, maybe we had started this podcast, and maybe we should try. And we tried to get a booth last year, but they had already booked up all full. And we tried maybe 3 or 4 months in advance then. And so for this year, after the 3rd year we had went, so probably about September or something last year, we reserved our booth for this year. So that's a little bit of kind of what our history was with this.
Yeah. In just kind of a little bit of other context, one of the things that we would always walk by when we went to this convention was this is where we kind of got the idea. And I feel bad because I actually haven't checked out the podcast, but the podcast I think is called Oh Crap.
Yeah.
And there was just a guy and a girl sitting there, and we would walk by, and they would be talking to people. And I think one time I did pick up their card, and I talked to them about it. And, they were a podcast, and they were just all they did was to bring people in and have them talk about their poop stories. And we thought that was really interesting. It's like, oh, these guys set up a booth and they talk. And I remember seeing them before we even had tried to do anything with the podcast. And then it became like, well, after we got a podcast, we would walk through the convention hall and we see them and we're like, well, I guess this is something that we could potentially do.
But do you think that maybe we chewed bit off more than we could chew because we were pretty ambitious with our trying to set up our whole booth and stuff like that? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, yes. Some ways, no. Like, honestly, like managing all of the consoles, the wires, the controllers, and the AV cables, and you know, like troubleshooting all of that, like without very much, uh, you know, warning on what we were going to be running into. We always knew it was going to be a little bit hairy. And shout out to, the help that we had there, especially our friend Tim. He was amazing. And then obviously your wife did an amazing job at holding down the fort on what was probably the star of the show, which I think, I don't know if it's maybe surprising or not, but one of the things and this was, I think, your idea, had set up is we set up a Game Boy camera
Yeah.
station where, and you worked with Tim to figure out a whole, process where people could hit a button. It would take a picture of them, and they would instantly print out on like a label the picture from the Game Boy camera. And
Yeah.
your wife ran that whole thing, and so shout out to her for doing that. And then your kid also did a lot of production help for us. So
Yeah,
we
we
have
were
a lot of
running
help.
two computers. We were running two computers. So Tim and my child were kind of back there and maybe looking at the streams, trying to make sure the cameras are in the right places, and then Tim would be working with the retro tinks and trying to make sure everything looked good. And I've sorted through some of the footage, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of footage, but I think I think there's going to be some good stuff we can get out of it. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect because there's lots of people coming in and out of our booth at while people are playing, people talking in the background. Like it's going to be a little bit of work for us to get some content out of this, but
Yeah.
I think it'll be worth it. So
Yeah, and honestly, like I've had that footage sitting on my hard drive for a couple weeks now, and anytime I thought about doing it, it was just like filled me with existential dread to jump into it. And I think I ended up sending the footage up to you on a USB drive, and you luckily waited out there and started doing something with it. So our hope is that we will have some footage, and we may append some footage of it onto this podcast. I guess we'll see.
at least the YouTube version of this podcast, correct?
Yeah. So I don't know, what the extent we're going to do with that, but I mean, we've kind of talked in and around it, but overall, if you were to like looking back at it now, 2 weeks later, what are your thoughts and feelings on the show?
Well, I think you said it. You said it. It's a ton of fun, but it was a ton of work. And I look back now, and I look back on it fondly right now. But that second day, I'm not sure. I wasn't feeling the hottest. I had a pretty bad headache. But despite all that, I still had a lot of fun. My social battery or whatever that was pretty drained. Like I don't think I've ever had that much social interaction in what, 23 years. It's 20. It's been a long time since I've interacted with so many people, and we talked to a ton of cool people too. So we got to meet a lot of cool people, but again, it's very socially draining and exhausting. But ultimately, I will look back fondly on this experience. The question is, Clark, was the juice worth the squeeze? Did we
Well,
get it?
it's a complicated answer. Ultimately, I would say yes, and I mean for a couple reasons. Like, for me, having an excuse to spend, basically 2 full days together working with people who I love and love being around is never time wasted. So that's one thing is like, this is going to be something that you and I talk about probably until we die. We'll be like, hey, remember the first year we did that convention and how much work it was, how I had my Subaru Outback just full of those black and yellow tubs with
Yes,
all of the
full of
gear.
wires,
Yeah,
like
and my
cables.
CRTs crammed in there too, and
Oh
all
man,
of the like banners and posters and sandbags to weigh the things down were all shoved in the back of my car. And we had to arrive early. We had to unload all that stuff, including picking up a CRT and hauling it into the convention center. And if I have a pretty good sized CRT, I think that this is like these are
it's the same
32.
size as this one right here.
Yeah, 32 inch, and so
This one, unfortunately, it's not working anymore.
well, I guess 'cause that was a casualty of this convention, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to recount that story real quick?
Oh well, I was just picking it up to take it out to the car, um, and I picked it up and I looked over and I noticed that the door was closed and locked. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go open that door. So I set it down and I thought it was nice and secure, and then I went over to go open the door and it fell down face first, and so I lost this awesome CRT.
Yeah,
And
pour
that was
one
just
out for
so I.
our fallen soldier.
Oh well.
Oh,
You still had yours, and I still was able to bring. I have like a 16-inch CRT monitor from that went to a computer. And that one worked pretty good too. It's just not. It doesn't have the scan lines like these ones do, so it doesn't look quite as good with some of the older systems and stuff.
yeah. But yes, like overall, the reason I was explaining that this was definitely worth it was to spend time with you, with our friends, and with family. And then obviously, I'm a lot like you. Like I am kind of an introvert at heart. I have a social battery, and being in these situations does deplete that a little bit. But that being said, there were so many crazy cool people there, and
Oh yeah.
maybe we can talk about some of the interactions. And we've got some of them on tape, so you'll see it. But I feel really bad right now because I can't remember his name, but a really cool guy. Actually, a couple guys came to our booth a few times, and he ended up giving me this game here, Golden Sun.
Golden Sun. Yeah.
So
He had purchased the Japanese version of that, correct?
right, and so this is actually one of the hidden, like, kind of cool things about the booth. I think that we didn't really anticipate, but there were a few people who had purchased games on the floor, and they were just carrying them around. And we would just say, "Hey, you want to try those games out?" And then they're like, "Well, yeah, sure." And so they would sit down, and we pop the game in. So, man, again, I apologize. He was really cool. Um, he and his friend had some really cool games. So, like, I remember the first time they came to the booth, they had a physical copy of Earthbound. And
Oh yeah, that was that was pretty sweet. Yeah.
yeah, so we popped it in and we played through the first 20 minutes of Earthbound. And they also had Mega Man X3. And so we got to see, at least I think it was them that had Mega Man X3. I'm pretty sure it was. had Mega Man X3. And so we just sat around and we talked with them. They were like pretty heavy collectors. They had a really good collection. They were telling us about their collection. It was really cool to hear what they had. And um, later they came by and he had a cart, like you said, of Golden Sun. So actually I pulled out my analog pocket here and he popped it in and I sat next to him while he played on the analog pocket, which was also really, really cool. And I like it. Golden Sun has always been a series or a game that I was familiar with, but I had never really played. And so when the logo came up on the developer, it said Camelot. I was like, oh, I know Camelot. Camelot is the second game we ever talked about on this podcast was Shining Force 2. And Camelot is made up of basically the developers who did Shining Force 2. And I was talking to him about it. And it was really cool to see this Japanese version of the game. Kind of, going back and forth and seeing, he was telling me about it. It was really cool. Then later on, he just came in with the cartridge and gave it to me. So that's how I ended up with this cartridge. And it was like, experiences like that are just so awesome. Do you have any stories that you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, the time that we busted out I pulled out my disk drive games, and we got a lot of reaction with people coming over and looking at the Famicom disk system drives. I first popped in, I think I started with Castlevania, right? A lot of people came over and were like, what's that? What's he playing? Where's that from? and I love talking to people about, because I have a Famicom,
Twin Famicom.
A twin Famicom. And so we were explaining to people what a twin Famicom was. And a lot of people thought that was cool. And then a couple guys came over and were like, well, they were fans of Mario 2, and I showed them, well, I've got Doki Doki Panic right here. And I had the disc of Doki Doki Panic. And it was fun seeing them, like, experience Doki Doki Panic and the differences between that and Super Mario 2. And they were like, wait, this isn't linear. I'm not sure if you know Doki Doki Panic. You can select whatever level you want to go to and play them in any order. And seeing them realize that, they're like, whoa, that's so cool. Yeah. So I thought that was fun. You do the next story, and then do you have any other stories you want to?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different stories. Well,
how about the time I was just playing Mario 3 and I happened to get the exploit right?
Yeah, there was
right when the ladies showed up, because that's hard.
Yeah, that was really cool. So Cam was, one of the things that you like to do, sort of when you have a little extra time, is you practice the exploit for Super Mario Brothers 3 that on World 7-1. Is it 7-1? Where you can just basically warp right to the end screen where the princess is.
And I'm not that great at it, but
you would say it's like 50% that you can get it.
Maybe about 50% I can get it.
So this lady walks up. She's like, "Oh, no way, Mario 3!" And then I started explaining to her, because you were like involved in playing. Like, "Oh yeah, he's trying to beat the game here." And she was like, "What?" Because you were doing all these weird shell manipulations. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't look like it right now, but he's like manipulating the RAM in the game to get it to a state where it can warp him to the final screen. She's like, no way. Nuh-uh. I said, look, see, he's jumping right there. He's trying to jump into an invisible pipe. She's like, what? And then like right after I said that, you like went down the pipe and she's like, get out. And I said, well, okay, but it's not like guaranteed right now. Sometimes it'll freeze when he gets down there. And like we're just holding our breath. And like, after like the screen scrolls down for a good like 10 seconds or whatever, and you open the door, you hit up, and then it shows you in the screen. And she was like, no way, that's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And so you performed the exploit in the highest of stakes.
Right, with pressure. I don't do good under pressure usually. So.
Yeah. Anyways, it blew her mind, so that was really cool. I was going to mention that there was that guy that he came. He was really cool. He came like right at the very beginning, and he basically ran the tournaments there at the convention. And he was asking what we were doing, and we were explaining we were a podcast, and then he's like, "Oh, you guys should come back and do these tournaments," because basically he lived in Texas somewhere, and he would travel all the way. Well, he travels around the country with all of his gear and runs retro tournaments. And that's what he was doing there. And so he had like dozens of TVs, dozens of consoles. I know that they had like a Halo tournament, I think, Halo 2, I think it was, or maybe it was Halo 3, I can't remember which one. They had a Mortal Kombat tournament, and he was just telling us about it. I think they might have even had an NBA Jam tournament. So just sitting down and talking to him, and he was interested in our gear and what we were doing, and that was really cool too.
Yeah, he was really cool. There was that guy that played Star Fox. He has his own YouTube channel.
Is it
Markagon?
Yeah,
Markagon. And he sat down and he was just dominating Star Fox 64 while he was talking with us, and he was a real cool dude. And we'll have to shout out his YouTube channel here on this. So
yeah, we'll put it in the description as well.
Yeah, so he was really cool. Man, just I had a good time. People playing Duck Hunt. We booted up Duck Hunt as an attract for a while. Mm-hmm. And yep. Duck Hunt, people will always stop and look at Duck Hunt.
Yeah. There was a time where we fired up. So they've actually both been on the podcast before, but if you guys remember Gene and Matt on our podcast, we were just running the booth, talking to lots of people, and totally unexpected because Matt lives in a totally different state. Matt and Gene just walk up, and I was like blown away that they were there. So I gave them hugs, and we caught up a little bit, and then we sat down and we played some Street Fighter 2. So that was really fun.
Yeah, and then other people came up and were challenging Matt to Street Fighter, and we got Street Fighter got a good amount of people there too.
Yeah.
So.
We could probably go on forever. Later on, there was a guy who I can't even remember the game. Maybe I can put it in post, or we can put it in post. But he had bought this cartridge for the Sega Genesis that was a first-person shooter on the Sega Genesis. And it kind of blew my mind because I didn't realize that this a plain old Sega Genesis had a first-person shooter game, and it looked a lot like Doom. And the performance of the game actually impressed me for a game that came out in 1991 or something on the Sega Genesis. It was pretty crazy.
Well, Doom came out for the 32X, so I guess I didn't see him pop it in and play. I guess I wasn't around at that time.
You must have been a time where you stepped away. So
yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah. So my brother-in-law Sam, he showed up at one point. We were talking with him, and I was able to convince him to come over, and we booted up Halo, and we had some Halo people going, and we convinced him to sit down and do some 4-player Halo. But the funny thing was, we had 4 controllers, but you couldn't find, because you know how the Xbox has those dongle things that you have to hook into, mm-hmm. and you couldn't find one of them, so we only had 3 working controllers. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to run over, and this is a convention. I can find another Xbox controller. So I walked around for a bit, and I found someone that was selling an Xbox controller. They wanted $25 for it, and I'm like, that seems like a lot for a controller, but whatever. So I bought it. It was a cool blue one, too. And I brought it over, and I plugged it in so you could play with them. So you sat down, and you played one game with them, and then we kind of finished up, and then we kind of moved on the day. And then we weren't really selling much at our booth. We had a few things out for maybe to sell, but some guy came over and asked about the Xbox controllers, and I said, well, we're not really selling anything. And then I'm like, hold on, this controller, which I had just bought, still had the sticker on it, $25, and I'm like, I'll sell you this for $25. And he's like, okay. So I rented a Xbox controller for a couple hours for $25. Then I got my money back.
Yes.
So there's that story.
Well, speaking
Did
of
you
selling,
find it?
I say speaking of selling things, there were a couple other things that we sold there, and maybe we can talk about that too. I don't know, in 2019, I had purchased a case of Magic cards because that's one of the other hobbies that we had. And it was literally a case of, for those of you who played Magic, you'll know the set Modern Horizons. It was the first Modern Horizons set.
First one, yeah.
And so I had a case of them, which is 6 boxes, but the case was still sealed with the stop tape and everything around it. And I had just bought this, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I kind of thought that maybe I would sell it piecemeal, or we would open it up and have a draft, and I never did anything with it. And so spoilers, like something like this is not cheap, and I was like, well, maybe we can, I can just fund some of what we're doing here by selling these Magic cards, these boxes here. But I was like, wasn't really planning on, doing much with it. However, like walking around the convention, the second day, I think, there was a guy selling Magic cards, and before the convention started that day, I was talking to him, and I was asking about some of the product that he had. And then I said, oh, by the way, I have these cards, and I explained to him what I just explained here, that I had. I said, is that something you'd be interested in? He's like, yeah, let me think about it. And then later, I came and asked him, and he gave me $1,600 for it. So I was able to...
Which is a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
A little less than market price, but yeah, that's, way better than trying to sell it on eBay or whatever.
Yeah. So it was nice. I was able to move all 6 boxes at once for a decent price and rid my hand of that. And so that was kind of fun. And then you sold something too, Cam, right?
Oh yeah, I had an analog 3D, and it was an Atomic Purple one.
There was someone who was really interested in it.
Yes, and so I don't know. I did this thing where the analog 3D was coming out, and we for a brief moment we were kind of pumped to get it. We're like, oh, we get to explore what the N64 is all about, and we pre-ordered the very first batch. You and I each got like 2 of them. We're like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And in the meantime, it took them like over a year to ship them. So you and I eventually, we just got our own like modded normal 64s. So when we finally got the ones we had pre-ordered, we like instantly sold them. But they do these like special color ones, and I just at one point I'm like, I'm gonna get one of these special like limited edition color ones. So I bought the purple one and a matching controller, and you know what? It just sat in my garage, and I didn't even really want to open it. So I sat on that for 8 months or whatever, and didn't do anything. And so I brought it along too, and I did a little research on what I could probably sell it for. I wasn't sure if I was going to sell it, but I put it up for $450 with the controller and stuff like that, and that was able to sell. So I felt good about that, to be unloaded. They don't have to worry about that anymore. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could probably do a whole podcast about like analog and all these FPGA consoles and stuff like that. Yeah. Especially analog's business of like giving you fear of missing out. You get this FOMO, and it almost always gets me. And
yeah, they are cool products.
Learn.
I do love my analog pocket. It's one of the coolest things that I've bought them, by the way. So.
Well, I got a limited edition one of those too, and I spent probably too much for that. But I got the purple aluminum one of those, and it's cool, but it's probably not worth. It probably is worth what I paid for it, but I probably should just got a normal one.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Well, and just a quick follow-up from a thought that we had before. The game that was played, the first-person shooter on the Genesis, is called Zero Tolerance.
That's cool. I maybe I'll show people the one thing that I bought there. Hold on. I did buy an inbox Final Fantasy 1.
With the maps and everything?
It's got the maps. It's got everything in it. I don't know if I should open it.
Well, that's a nostalgic game for us because I remember we bought that new in the box. Yep.
Yeah.
There it
We
is.
bought that new in the box back in the day. So, anyways,
What good
I
memory.
was pretty pumped about that. Did you buy anything while we were there? I don't think I saw you.
No, I did think about flipping the magic cards for other sealed magic product, but I ultimately decided against it. So, all right. Well, let's end on this question, Cam. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be deciding if we're going to be doing this again. What are your thoughts right now around that?
Well, I'm definitely going to look into it. We'll see how much they're going to be charging us next year, and if we feel like it's worth it. I would probably be leaning to like, let's do it again. I think, and maybe we could be, since we have the experience, that we could be more prepared next time, and we can. I think there's a few things we could have done much better.
I have
And
some
I
plans
think,
for making things more seamless with the consoles and the controllers and things like that.
yeah. So I think it would go much better next year. So I would say I'm leaning towards maybe doing it again.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we'll definitely let you guys know on the channel if we end up doing that. So, all right. Well, I mean, that'll wrap it up for this month's Twincast. Thanks to everyone who lent their help into the convention. Thanks for everyone who stopped by and said hi. Please, comment here on this video if you stop by the booth. Share us your experience. Tell us what you liked and what you didn't like, what we could do better. We just really appreciate everyone. And with that, Twincast is out.
thanks, guys. Thank you.